Hello and welcome to another episode of Cyrils Brettspiele durchgespielt. My name is Nils and today, in a nutshell, Antarctica, Argentum Verlag. Here in the US it's published by Passport Game Studios, which have an exclusive contract with Argentum Verlag for all of their games. And first, before we will start, what else comes from Argentum? Great games like Hansa Teutonica or El Gaucho. These are two role models, two super good examples for very good games from Argentum. However, let's talk about Antarctica, the newest and latest game from Argentum. So first of all, this is the board, and you have some cool looking 3D cardboard pieces like this here, or this here, or that. So you also have these markers. They are lying down in a 2-player game, these areas here, but I just recently finished a 4-player game, so and it's still here on the table. You also have a bunch of cards for buildings. You have scientist meeples here. You also have a couple of ships here, nice wooden pieces. They're representing the ship and a sun. In this game, the board fills up a little bit over the course of the game. However, the sun is always moving. So the sun is in Antarctica, obviously not moving clockwise. The sun is moving counterclockwise, so it goes here. In this particular case, the ship closest to the sun, in this case yellow, would have a turn and it goes around the table. In this case here, for an example, red will have a turn. Then all the other ships slide down closer to the sun. Now red can decide to go anywhere on the board and always going into the last place, farthest away from the sun. In this case here on the second spot, here on the last one. But if there's no one, they can go here. In addition to that, you can use an action. For an example, build a building. Like these buildings here, these are light buildings or easy buildings, advanced buildings or special buildings with this purple background. These are always 3 different available buildings you can build, and also in triggering conditions. If you want to build this building, the top of the card shows you have to have a ship where a crane is located. Now, we remember it was red, so you look around the board and either in the target area or in the area where other red ships are, in this case here, there is no crane, but let's assume red would be here where a crane is located. You can claim this card and take the benefits of what is going on. In the area where you put the ship in, you are allowed to put down a scientist, this red guy here. So what you're doing is you take one of your red scientists and put it here. These are area controlled, so majority rules. However, second place is always good as well. And then you are allowed to place another building. These buildings, for an example, are cardboard buildings. They allow you to advance on these tracks here. I explain the tracks in a second. And this means advanced on a track. A 0 means simply no advanced on a track. So that is what you can do. This is one of these actions. Another action could be you can go to the shipyard and build new ships. Obviously, bringing in another ship will give you the ability to have more actions when the sun is going around the board. Another action is this one here. This allows you to ready your scientists. You have 2 stacks of scientists. Each player has scientists here. They are ready to go onto the board, or here in the supply has to be readied first, and from ready going onto the board. There are some action cards in the game, like this one here. This allows you to ready from your supply, it's gray, up into the ready area 2 of your scientists. This is a card that comes from a shipyard. Whenever you, in this case red, builds a ship here with this shipyard, all the other players can pick one of these cards. There's this one here, add an additional scientist to the target area. The sun is moving twice, or with other words, Where the sun lands, in this case, not only the first player, also the second player has a turn, and things like that. That's another option you have, so you can ready your scientists, you can bring in your scientists by building buildings, you can create new ships, or you can, from your cubes, move on to this track here. And this is more or less end scoring points, in addition to area control here. However, these you can also trash if you don't want it to compete in tracks. One at a time you can trash, and this discard area here gives you also victory points at the end of the game. Sounds weird that when you trash something or discard that this gives you victory points, but in every of these areas the winning condition is, or the victory points you're getting out of that is simply a area control or majority rules. So in this case, for an example, you have in this area, I put it flat down for you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings, 5 scientists. This area is, when it comes to scoring, worth 10 points for green. Green has a majority of 3 scientists and it worth 10 points. However, the second player, and in a tie, everybody ties and get the highest points for it. The second player get the points of the majority players' scientists. So in this case, green would take 10 points and blue and yellow each 3. Same as here, it's a little bit different. So if you count a track, for an example, this one here, there are little red numbers. You total up the red numbers for the yellow cube 3, blue 2, another 2, it's 7, and the green gives you 8. So the row, the second row here, this row is worth 8 points for yellow, and blue get the points from yellow. So 3, red gets points from blue, 2, and green from red as well, 2. So always -1 step. At the end of the game, you total up the points here, and whoever has the most points win. Like always, in a nutshell, let's talk about my personal experiences with Antarctica. First of all, I have to admit, I'm a huge, gigantic fan of the company Argentum Verlag. And I was really thrilled when I got this game. So I thought, wow, another one. I really like the box. The box is usually, I can show it to you, thin, so it's rectangle, so it's not a huge box, so you can carry them around. Usually there's good components in it, not outstanding, obviously not miniatures like Cool Mini or not, but there are good solid wooden components in it. Price point is fair, so everything is fine with this game in general. But this game, for me, for an example, in my first experience, felt very short. So my first game was a 2-player game, and it's a little bit around and around and around and around, and has a runaway leader problem. And on top of that, it doesn't matter really if yellow goes up to here. Let's assume it's only yellow and red is here. Red gets always the points from yellow. It's even better when the spread is wide for red. For yellow, it makes really not a big difference. In this case, yellow would get 4 and 1, 5, and red would get 4 points. So in a 2-player game, the spread is really bad. I mean, in this case, it's also the same spread. It's 2 to 1 is 3 for yellow and 2 for red. It's 1 point, but percentage-wise, the difference is more. Yes, there's a larger difference in percentage. So it makes no sense for yellow to move on more than this one here or this one. So it's an advantage to stay close, which feels weird. In a multiplayer game with 4 players or with 3 players, it's a little bit different because you wanted to get in second and in third, but the first one is always, the best one for the first one is staying one in front of the other one. It's always. It's the same on the board. So, but there's a huge difference between the first player for 10 points and the second for 3 points. Probably it's good for the last one to sneak in as well to get 3 points for one scientist, but it's a huge difference if you're the first one or just the second one on the board. Therefore, bring in already all your scientists as fast as you can into this area where you can bring them onto the board is essential to win the game. And that means the spaces where you can get these scientists are super crowded. Usually ships are hanging around in this area, and the other areas there's nothing really going on. Thematically, it's probably correct that some areas of Antarctica are more settled and some are deserted here and there's nothing going on, but from the game and the flow of the game, it's usually that it's crowded here. Okay, this ship will probably never come to an action again unless you have this two ships using cards, and you usually have this cards. However, there's no other way, no other spot to get your meeples out of your reserve into your ready area. And you start off the game with two of this area, so you have to go there to get to ready more of your scientists, and then you're packing up there. After that, probably you can also go to the shipyard. Usually you are not starting with a shipyard. And in some areas there's one building in the start, so randomly selected. And when you have these tiny buildings here, where are they? Here, this one here. No, that's this one here, where you only need one to go there. Why not putting your ship in that area where it already is and then build another one? So you clunch up more buildings in separated areas, and staying there with your ship is also good, so you have access to all buildings. But it feels weird and it feels different than other games, and there are some areas on the board where something going on and it's really crowdy, and other areas where nothing happens. And only in the last 2 or 3 or 4 rounds, when the sun is moving around like this, oh, here is no one. Or let's assume red is here, so, and here no ships are, red is here, and you know exactly the sun goes around, so red picks up, his ship goes here. Next one, sun comes up, goes here, so red has 3 turns in a row, then red has another of these cards here on his hand, so sun comes up here, then yellow has a turn, and then another red, and red goes always. So red can speed up the game when red is ready and have readied all the scientists into his area. So there's a huge runaway leader problem on top of downtime for people who has to go here and grab more scientists and ready more scientists, and the space is not open, so they cannot go there, and they are delaying and delaying rounds, and the other players playing while 1 or 2 players sitting around. This is a feeling I don't want it to have when I'm playing a game, and unfortunately I had this in 3 out of 4 rounds for Antarctica in my group. So Antarctica is for me a game you definitely should try out before you buy, if you consider buying that. The theme is cool, I really like the cardboard things, and it's interesting. There's an interesting mechanic, so with the sun going around and you are ready when you do it. However, I didn't really get into a position when I was playing the game where I would say, oh, this is a sweet spot for the game. So 2 is definitely not a sweet spot for the game for me. 4 was also really rocky. I have not tried the game with 3, to be honest. So we should try it next time with 3 players. Probably that is a sweet spot. I don't know. In a 3-player game, a couple of areas will be blocked out. Here, this one, and you have more scientists, so you take scientists out. But right now I would definitely say try it out before you buy it, and then make your own judgment on Antarctica from Argentum. Sorry guys, yeah, sometimes, but you know, not everybody can like each single game, and not every game is for each single player. So I hope you enjoyed this honest talking about Antarctica, and see you next time for another episode of Cyrils Brettspiele with Nils, and another In a Nutshell. See you next time. Bye bye.